What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be diving into some of the previews of Dominaria United that we've kind of gotten already. I know I'm a little bit late to this, but I know this week, I believe Thursday, we will start beginning some of the new previews for the new cards for the new set, which is definitely exciting. I feel like I'm going to just start, as we get the new cards, I will probably start making videos on the daily as we get the new cards released and kind of just get my thoughts and opinions about some of the cards that I think will stand out for the most part, and kind of like understand maybe where we can kind of go when it comes to either upgrading decks that we already have or possibly even making decks out of the new set overall. It's definitely something that is kind of exciting. We do get a rotation, plus we get new cards, which is always a win-win. It's definitely kind of to see some of the new things they're kind of talking about and explaining when it comes to these new cards that will get introduced. It's definitely cool to see like their little show they'll do beforehand to kind of announce some of the cards, and then I believe the rest of the cards will get announced by various content creators, and at some point they'll get all compiled and put on Wizards website right before the set releases to give you a better way to find all the cards in one direct place. But with that out of the way, let's just kind of dive into the previews and let's just start talking about them. So the first card up we have is Evolved Sleeper. It's a 1 mana 1/1 human creature that is black. It is similar to something you would see in Ascendant Spirit, the 1/1 spirit that you invested snow mana into, and it gets sort of abilities as you kind of invest and level the creature up overall. So the 1 mana investment that you do here is for 1 black. You get to make it a base power and toughness of a 2/2, and now it's a human cleric in addition to its original just human archetype. After that, you can invest 2 mana into it. It's now a cleric. Evolved Sleeper is a cleric. You get to put a death touch counter on it. It also becomes a Phyrexian human cleric with base power toughness 3/3. And then for 3 mana, if it is a Phyrexian, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then you get to draw a card and lose a life. So overall, the last ability here is kind of like that investment ability. For 3 mana, you can make this creature bigger and also draw a card. Also, this is not at sorcery speed, so you can do this at the end of your opponent's turn. You can do this in reaction to blocking. You can also do it in reaction to attacking. So if your opponent doesn't block this and maybe, giving that additional +1/+1 counter on it, or making it a 3/3, or even a 2/2 will get that additional points of damage in. It's definitely a card that will get better as the course of the game is available and you have mana open to kind of evolve the card. Definitely a card that's going to be interesting to play around with, maybe see it in some sort of mono black aggro deck. I do think, a lot of decks in general are looking for that 1-drop replacement that a lot of them will be losing. And, losing Shambling Gas, losing Eye Twitch, this is definitely kind of an interesting replacement that could replace those cards, as those cards kind of got abilities when they left the battlefield. This will be one of those cards that, as long as it can stay on the battlefield, it'll get better and better as the game goes on. So definitely a card that I'm excited to play around with and kind of test out when it comes to mono black. So the first card up here in red is going to be the Planeswalker Jaya Fire Negotiator. It is a 4 mana 4 loyalty Planeswalker that for +1 we get a 1/1 monk creature that has prowess, and prowess is just an ability that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, like an instant or sorcery, give the creature +1/+1 until end of turn. So it is kind of like one of those decks that probably, like, if you're looking for is it Delver, this could be a card in, as Delver is a card that benefits you from playing a decent amount of non-creature spells on top of, ways to kind of grow your creatures overall. So definitely already interesting +1 ability. -1, you got the exile top cards of your library. You have to play one of them until end of turn. -2, you get to choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, Faya Negotiator deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures you control. So turning maybe a deck that's a little bit more tempo based into a little bit more of an aggressive based card is definitely pretty decent there. And the -8, you get the whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell, copy it twice. You may choose new targets for the copy. So overall, very interesting, aggressive Planeswalker, I would say. It's definitely a very niche Planeswalker for some of the abilities. I think the +1 is definitely very interesting. That's maybe you can see it in like a control, like Is It style deck or a Jeskai style deck, just because, you may be playing a lot of counter spells or removal magic, and having a card that just benefits you from playing those non-creature spells is definitely something that is possible. Though I would say it's a much better like deck, a card that would be in that more aggressive, like is it like Delver kind of style deck. Overall, pretty good Planeswalker. I think we'll see some play. I don't think it's one of those Planeswalkers that will be added to every red deck that is out there. Though it is kind of interesting when they add 4 mana Planeswalkers with 4 loyalty and also 4 abilities. It definitely makes it very diverse, and depending on the game state situation, you have maybe a lot of answers to how to interact with that said game state. I do think it's definitely going to be one of those Planeswalkers I will also try out, as I do like Delver decks, and I do think this finds a nice place in like some sort of Is It pile when it comes to Delver. Definitely a pretty cool card in general. So the next card up here is going to be Chevy Devastator. It's an X red creature that comes in the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it based on how much you paid for X. It is flying. It also has haste, so it's definitely one of those interesting creatures in like an aggro or aggressive deck. In the fact that you can play it pretty early, though the creature won't be very large. It can attack immediately, or if you get into the late game, you can invest a ton of mana into and actually make a very large dragon that your opponent has to almost deal with instantly, or they're going to hit really hard in the face. It's definitely going to be kind of interesting of how well this card plays in our current meta slash what the meta will be, I guess, when this set comes out. We do lose Vanish Inverse, so there is like, this card's probably a lot better than maybe in a meta where Vanish Inverse is technically legal. It does die to spot removal, but like I said, your opponent does have to almost instantaneously answer whenever this does come out because it does have haste, so it's going to be attacking the turn it comes out into play if it's not answered. So depending on how much you paid is going to be how much you dealt to your opponent. It is going to be also interesting in the sense that I don't know how many you would run of this card because I guess it doesn't have a set base power and toughness. It's kind of one of those things that you're not always open to spending all your mana on one particular creature. Maybe you're looking to do multiple things on a given turn, and that's kind of one of the downsides to playing cards with X mana in them. So it is maybe a 2 to 4 at best. It's definitely hard to tell just because it's kind of, as we kind of get more and more pieces of Dominaria United, we'll kind of see, is this an aggressive set? Is this more of a mid-range set? Or is it more of looking to get a balance of maybe that mid-range slash control set overall? So definitely an interesting card to kind of keep an eye on. It is also mythic, as it is definitely going to be a little bit more pricey to invest into. But I do think it's a pretty solid card for it being, a 1 mana X spell. Definitely overall, like I said, something to keep an eye on if you're looking to maybe play dragons or looking for the next maybe aggressive mono red style deck. So the next card up on this list is going to be Temporal Firestorm. It's a 5 mana sorcery that does have kicker of either a white in a colorless or a blue in a colorless, and this can be paid as many times as you want. So it's kind of like a multi-kicker, but they're not calling it a multi-kicker. So it's definitely a very interesting spell, but the overall effect of this spell is based on how many times you paid that kicker cost. You can phase out that many creatures and or planeswalkers. After this has been resolved, then it does 5 damage to each creature and or planeswalker that's left out on the battlefield. So overall, very interesting card in that regard. It does kind of compete for Burn Down the House as another 5 mana deal 5 across the board. I guess the one benefit is here if you are more of the control player, maybe you only have to save like a planeswalker. This does become a 7 mana. Let me wipe the board, clean things up, and then kind of keep my planeswalker around that if I need to kind of continue pumping it up to kind of gain that advantage. So it's definitely going to be an interesting card to see if people really will play it. It does seem like that they added in the white and the blue, so it does seem like either this is going to be towards either a Boros style control deck and or maybe is it, or even maybe if you want to do both color, maybe you want to do all 3 colors and do Jeskai. This is definitely another interesting card that could fit into a Jeskai control style deck. But nonetheless, like I said, it may be that Burn on the House is probably the better 5 damage across the board type removal. Probably not going to be played a ton just because Burn on the House is just that much better. This only does 5 damage. There's no secondary effect other than phasing things out. So definitely probably not the best kind of 5-drop removal that you'd want to see in red, though. It is definitely something regardless, so it's okay. Moving on to green, we do have the Land of War Loam Speaker. It's a 2 mana 1/3 creature, elf druid. Tap it, you get to add 1 mana of any color, and then for tapping it, target land we control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with haste until end of turn. It's still land and activate only as a sorcery. So this is definitely another interesting card. It's a card that helps you ramp out in the early game. It does have pretty decent toughness, having 3 toughness, which is definitely very good. And then in the later game, as you want to put more pressure on your opponent, you can now start tapping it now to make those lands into creatures and get in pretty aggressively against your opponent. I would say this is definitely going to be a card you're probably seeing any deck that plays some sort of green, just because rampant is definitely going to be something that's beneficial, I would say, in the current green landscape, as we do lose a lot of key mono green stompy type pieces. There are other green cards, but they do cost a little bit of mana to invest into, so you can play this on like turn 2. Then on turn 3, you can probably sneak out your 4-drop, and then maybe sneak out like a Titan of Industry maybe on turn 6 or something like that, which is definitely going to be a big game changer for the most part. But overall, as being a 2 mana ramper kind of creature, this is definitely not a bad one. It is rare. It's probably something you probably want to play 4 of if you're definitely trying to be aggressive in your ramping overall. Definitely a cool card that I do think we'll see a lot of play, especially in those green decks or maybe even in Gruul decks. And, with the hint that it is an Elf Druid, there's also a possibility that we could see some more elves in the set, which definitely could see maybe Elf Tribal pop up. As I feel like with Kaldheim and stuff, like Elf Tribal, I felt like was a thing for like a brief moment, but that kind of slowly faded out, I guess, as more stuff got released. So definitely a pretty cool card in general. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if we'll see other cards like this, especially for green. That definitely will help maybe that more aggressive, stompy kind of style, but definitely a cool card regardless. So the next thing up that they've announced outside of maybe things that maybe leaked out other places on their official website is the lands. These are definitely cool variants of the lands that will be introduced in Dominaria United. These are the variants. They are full art lands. We'll probably get some sort of bundle that these lands will be available in Arena when Dominaria comes into the game. I think overall all of them are amazing. I like the stained glass look. They definitely bring something interesting as they are lands that are full art. They, I personally like lands when they have the colors, so I don't get confused sometimes. The black and white lands, as cool as they are, definitely can be deceiving just because if you're not paying attention, you may play a land of a color that you're not paying attention to. But these stained art lands are definitely be a cool addition to add to any collection if you're looking for some cool kind of variant art lands, as they don't come too often into the game that give you the full card effect like this. So definitely a pretty sweet set of lands. All of them, I think they're all pretty awesome in their own unique way. But with that out of the way, guys, I mean, these are kind of the previews we have gotten so far for Dominaria United. I think each card does bring a little bit to the colors that we got announced. I know we only really saw red, green, and black. But come Thursday, we'll start seeing more and more previews for more cards in Dominaria United. And depending on how many we get at a given time, I'll probably try to do some of these videos for like a bundle of them. Maybe we'll look at blue on a given day, then we'll follow that up with another color, so on and so forth. And then probably towards the tail end, I'll probably give my opinions about some of the cards that I think will be valid, and as we kind of get a little better idea of the whole set as a whole. But if you guys like the video, let me know it in the comments below. It definitely helps out a lot. If you're new here, you want to post new videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Just want to give a special shout out to the channel members here on my YouTube channel. You can also become a channel member yourself down below the video, hitting that join button. It definitely helps out a lot, and I just appreciate you guys for your support.